Cain Velasquez was recently taken into custody on accounts of an alleged attempt to murder, but there has been a major twist in the ex-UFC champion's case, and some secrets about his motives are out. If you haven't heard about this case before, here's the story and some updates. First, some recent court revelations. Santa Clara County court documents might just reveal a possible motive in the San Jose shooting carried out by ex-UFC star Cain Velasquez recently. As you might already know, the shooting led to Velasquez's arrest, and he's currently in police custody over it. The report stated that the former UFC champion was allegedly shooting into a car with 3 passengers inside it. One of the passengers, an elderly man, was hit and is currently in the hospital getting treatment for his bullet wound. But a controversial recent reveal stated that the shooting wasn't random at all. In fact, Velasquez seemed to be aiming at a man accused of molesting a child relative of his. But things became worse for the UFC star when he hit someone else. The police reported to the press that San Jose and Morgan Hill officers received a call about a man shooting into a vehicle with 3 passengers inside. The gunman was immediately identified as Velasquez, and he has allegedly shot one man. Thankfully, the man did not die and was immediately transported to a local hospital with injuries by authorities who rushed to the scene quickly. The report said that Velasquez was apparently targeting the people in the car intentionally, and there are reports of him following another woman and man who was later identified as Harry Goularte Jr. After Velasquez's arrest, the Morgan Hill police conducted a thorough investigation of the case and recovered a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun in Velasquez's vehicle. The gun still had 9 bullets intact inside a 10-round magazine, since Velasquez was only able to shoot 1 at Goularte's car. According to the police, there was another magazine in the console that had 3 bullets, and 2 .40 caliber casings were also found lying in the passenger seat. So it's clear that Velasquez came prepared to hurt the passengers in the other car. The police also discovered that the gun was legally registered in Velasquez's name, which ultimately made matters worse for him. What happened to the victims? The man who was driving the car when he was shot was immediately taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries after the shooting. But according to the court documents, the real target of the shooting was 43-year-old Harry Goularte. Goularte is currently facing felony charges for reportedly molesting a child who is also a close relative of Velasquez. Velasquez was apparently attached to the child and took it upon himself to take revenge for Goularte's alleged crime. But according to authorities, Goularte was unharmed in the shooting. Goularte was arraigned in Santa Clara County Superior Court in February because of child molestation charges. His bail could be achieved under the conditions that he stays on house arrest in Morgan Hill, stays 100 yards away from any child under 14, and wears an electric monitoring bracelet so that the authorities could track him constantly. Goularte had no choice but to agree to these terms, and he was on his way to get the monitor when Velasquez intercepted the ride and attempted to shoot him. Goularte's stepfather, who is 63 years old, was struck once but is expected to survive the attack. And as you might already know, Velasquez is now in jail and is charged with attempted premeditated murder and other related charges. How did combat sports reporter Mark Raimondi react? This incident shocked the world and also garnered some pretty strong opinions from the UFC fraternity. And even though some people have spoken up against Velasquez's rash decision, combat sports reporter for ESPN Mark Raimondi refuses to believe that Velasquez would ever harm anyone. He also shared his thoughts on the arrest with ABC7 and talked about his history with the fighter. According to Raimondi, learning the news that Velasquez is now in jail suspected of attempted murder is something he never could have imagined in his life. MMA is a sport that has a lot of characters, a lot of people from all different walks of life, Raimondi said. There are some people that get in trouble a lot. Cain Velasquez was never that type of guy. Cain Velasquez is not the kind of guy you expect to be involved in something like this. Police arrested Velasquez, and he was booked into Santa Clara County Jail, where he's being currently held with no bail. The arrest shook the UFC community as well as the fans. Some fans even defended his actions online and described Velasquez as a family man who was loved by many. Raimondi said that the news came as a complete shock to him, since Velasquez is one of the finest and most upright members of the UFC. He also said that he did not expect this news to be about the ex-UFC star because he had such a clean record during his time at the UFC. Now, in other news, Marina Moroz's message to Putin. Ukrainian UFC fighter Marina Moroz sent a strong message to Russian leader Vladimir Putin, who started an all-out war and invaded her country earlier this month. Moroz, who is 30 years old, is currently preparing for her UFC 272 fight against Maria Agapova that will take place on Saturday, March 5th. But as a true patriot, her thoughts are with the people of Ukraine and the trouble they're in right now. When asked what she would tell Putin, the fearless fighter kept her answer short and honest. Moroz asked the Russian leader to leave her country alone and stop oppressing her people. Moroz was born in Vilnius, Ukraine in September 1991, right when the country gained its independence as the Soviet Union broke apart. She's proud of her country, but also fears fears for her family's safety. Next, the fight between Strickland and Hermansson. Las Vegas Apex UFC Complex was the place where UFC Fight Night between Sean Strickland and Jack Hermansson took place. People underestimated what Strickland could achieve in this fight, especially because he was fighting against Hermansson, who is a star player. But Strickland proved everyone wrong with his exemplary performance at the fight. There was a moment during round 2 when one of Strickland's jabs would be enough to knock Hermansson out, but Jack somehow managed to recover from the sharp attacks and got himself points for endurance. In the next 3 rounds, Hermansson knew he needed to improve his takedowns, but all his attempts were useless because Strickland kept connecting more jabs. By the end, it was clear that Strickland was the victor and had secured himself a clear victory. Lastly, McKee against Mayweather. In other news, MMA star AJ McKee has set his sights on boxing legend Floyd Mayweather. The star is enjoying his newfound fame after demolishing Patricio Pitbull to win the Bellator featherweight title. He gained a lot of new fans as a result of that fight. So now the Californian has called out the 44-year-old veteran for a fight to decide who's the best player in the series. AJ McKee would not mind stepping into a ring to box against one of the greatest combat athletes in history because it's going to make him famous and also provide a great opportunity. But it seems like the star doesn't only want to fight Pitbull. In fact, he seems to have a whole list of players that he wants to invite to the ring. You might not believe this, but he included Conor McGregor on his list of possible opponents. As you might already know, McGregor is not a guy that backs away from a fight, especially a controversial one. So we might see some angry back and forth between the two UFC stars in the next few days. The 26-year-old McKee boasts an impressive 18-0 unbeaten record in MMA and apparently believes that fighting Mayweather, who has a 50-0 in boxing, would be the best of both fight worlds united. He wants to test his skills against some of the best players in fighting history. McKee also mentioned that he had a lot of respect for Mayweather and wasn't just initiating this match because he wants to win against him. In fact, he has a lot of respect for the star and wants to test his own skills in hand-to-hand combat with one of the best athletes in the world. McKee, however, does not limit his scope to just one athlete. If not Mayweather, the Bellator champion is willing to box McGregor in his place. I'm down for anybody. If it's 145, 155, 170. In boxing, I'll go 3 weight classes, he said. Mayweather and McGregor boxed back in 2017 when Mayweather won by TKO. It was one of the biggest sports events ever and gained attention from millions of people across the globe. Floyd then went on to box Japanese kickboxer Tenshin Nasukawa and the famous YouTuber Logan Paul. And since both Mayweather and McKee are hardworking, persistent, and talented athletes, the fight between them is going to be an exciting one. What do you think? Will Velasquez serve jail time or will the jury let him free? Will McKee defeat Mayweather in a fight? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and we'll see you next time.